No, just thank you guys for coming out today, the eve before we get rolling with the 21 fall camp, and really excited to get started. I know the team is. They've worked tremendously hard this, not only this off season, but in particular this summer, and growing from the springtime and coming out of the spring and really looking at the things that we need to focus on, emphasize on, whether it be from a mental standpoint, a physical standpoint, an operation standpoint, not just on the field but off the field, and all those things. And the staff and the team has done a really good job this summer in growing in those areas. It's a night and day difference from when we started in the summertime to where we're at now. So we're excited to get the team on the field together, get out there and be able to get that football out and learn how to secure it, learn how to take it away, learn how to get it to each other by either throwing, handing off, blocking. Good old American football. So I know you guys got a lot of questions, so let's get it rolling.
Sure, Coach, any additions or subtractions to the roster you want to announce before fall camp?
So we'll release the roster later this afternoon, and what will come with that is statements on additions to the roster and or any subtractions that may have taken place since springtime. So that will come out a little bit later this afternoon, so we'll knock all that stuff out with the release a little bit later today.
So you've mentioned a couple times one of your top priorities is building dependable depth on both sides of the line.
Yeah.
Where are you with that at this point, and what do you want to see out of those guys in these 29 practices?
Yeah, there's no question. This game starts up front. The mentality and physicality that is created up front through the course of camp is everything. This is a physical game. The physicalness and the mentality of which we want to play here is going to take a great deal of depth that is not only created in the meeting rooms and how we teach fundamentals and techniques that create that mentality, but then how we carry that over onto the field. The utmost confidence that players can execute the fundamentals up front and the techniques with proper pad level, hand leverage, body placement, making sure their eyes are to the right spot. How consistently we can do that creates confidence. That confidence creates mentality. If we can do that consistently through the course of camp, we'll be able to create that dependable depth up front.
Anybody going to be out or limited to start fall camp?
No, we won't. So on that note too, okay, on an everyday basis, we are not going to speak about personnel. We will not answer personnel availability when it comes to injuries, nor COVID protocol. We will release anybody who may be unavailable for a game 45 minutes beforehand. I know people have to answer questions, and the simple statement back will be, our standard is we'll release that information 45 minutes before a game.
I guess in general, health-wise, how do you feel going in?
Awesome. We feel really good health-wise. The strength and conditioning staff and our training staff has done an unbelievable job preparing the roster for fall camp and to get guys, especially coming out of last year where we were, getting guys ready to play some football tomorrow.
How does this day before fall camp begins compare for you being a head coach rather than assistant coach, a player, whatever? How's the feel different?
You know what? Through everything, it's not a whole lot different. It's the night before Christmas. It's the afternoon before Christmas right now, where we actually get to put some helmets on tomorrow and get a football out. You know, we haven't been able to do those things since the springtime. There are last few minutes of organization going on, but the staff has done an unbelievable job organizing this months ago. In the upcoming weeks, adjusting the things that we've needed to adjust. Logistically, there's always moving parts that as a head coach we got to adapt to. We got to collaborate with the people that are involved in running the program and make sure that we are continuing to adapt and adjust so that we can overcome and achieve. And so there is a little bit more of that as a head coach now. It's not just about day one emphasis and install on the defensive side of the ball. It's a collaboration now of bringing both sides of the ball together, and ultimately what we look like initially is going to show on special teams, because it's a collaboration of the whole team. Where we're starting out with that mentality, that's what I want to see tomorrow. What does our special teams look like? Because that's a collaboration of the whole team and where we're at mentality-wise, and how we grow that on both sides of the ball, it'll always be shown on special teams.
Last year
year, George Lonnie was out basically after the first game of the season. What are you hoping, expecting for him this year as he comes back to be able to play?
Oh, he looks awesome. He's explosive now. He the way he's moving around in our conditioning sessions and stuff like that, he is very explosive. So we're excited about his opportunity this year and the things that he will continue to build on, being that he was out last year, and him preparing himself, as well as the rest of that running back core, and coming together as a room. And, you know, Coach Venable will define the standards of that room and do a great job developing that whole unit.
Where do you see him maybe excelling or being different with what you guys have used for the offense, maybe than what we've seen from him?
You know what, George has the ability to do it all. From the backfield, and really from the backfield in terms of it doesn't matter the scheme. He's got great vision, whether it's inside zones, outside zones, gap schemes, being able to let those plays develop and be able to see the vision and work off and get behind and run behind his pads. He's able to work out of the backfield and do some things, split out at the wide receiver position. He's able to handle the offense in terms of the pre-snap movements, and it doesn't slow him down. He plays extremely fast. So we're really excited for his versatility and what that brings to the offense.
We were talking with Shaq at Mountain West Media Days, and he was talking about the complexities of the new offense. How do you feel going into fall camp?
Yeah, there's no question. We've asked the players that same question because ultimately it's them out there. And having the time over the course of the summer to continue to rehearse, you know, those complexities and rehearse the installs and turn things. They're a lot simpler now the second time through. Here we go in the third time through in fall camp. One being spring, the second being the summer, the third being fall camp. It's time to polish and master these things now. And just like we were talking about with building the dependable depth up front, that always starts with building a mentality through confidence. And the guys are gaining that. When you ask them, you can see it. They automatically smile right away. And when the guy starts smiling and has a good vibe to him when you're starting to ask him how this second time through and how he feels about going into the third time, you know, through the installs, it's an awesome feeling.
I was going to take a shot. When it comes to your quarterback competition, how do you split it up initially, and then when do you hope one starts to separate?
Yeah, the answer is the same as it was 2 weeks ago at Media Days. But they'll rotate each day. Who goes with the ones, who goes with the twos. But we're really excited, boy, both those guys, and they've done an unbelievable job really getting themselves comfortable with the operation of the offense, not only so that they can lead themselves, but so that they can lead the men around them, so that they can become coaches on the field themselves. And so we're excited to see that competition as everybody else is. They're both fine young men. They will both do a good job. And, you know, as always, the competition on the field will tell us the timeline and what that looks like, and as well as, you know, a young man like Taylon Green, who is an exceptionally great young player that we're really excited about. And, you know, so overall, as the room looks, you know, you guys will see later when it gets announced, we have added you know, a couple guys to that room as well. And again, those statements will come out on who those people are in fairness to the guys that have been here and talking about the start of fall camp tomorrow and focusing on the guys that have been here through the course of the year and or their careers. You know, we'll put some statements out later so that you guys can get to know who those guys are and where they're coming from and things like that.
The corner position, obviously, you brought in some guys, and
Yeah.
How important, I guess, is it to going to be able to find two guys that are, you know, quality guys to replace all league guys, and especially to play an offense like you are right out of the gate? How important is that battle going to be this fall?
Yeah, BJ, there's no question that's a pivotal position, and it's a very demanding position, both mentally and physically. And so, the process does not start tomorrow. That process has started, and we've got guys on the roster who are biting at the bit for their opportunity and their turn, who have done a great job throughout the course of this year up until this point, and they'll get the opportunity to continue to compete. We've brought guys onto the roster who we feel that will help us at that position. And so tomorrow when we get out here, we'll mark the first day when we get to see them all together in that competitive setting. And, We are the wide receiver core. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a DB rolling with the 1s, the 2s, or the 3s. The wide receivers are deep now, so that competition is going to be real. And there's nothing better than competition when it comes to fall camp, because that's the motivation every single day when we get up and we're sore, we're tired.
Andy, in regards to what Coach Kagi and his staff accomplished this summer, what were you most proud of?
You know, it starts with the mental. There's one thing, and we can go into some of the things. I'll share a little bit about the physical gains, but the mental gains, how the guys respond, how they respond to certain challenges and or adversity that were created into the workouts. Earlier on this summer when we started, those response as a whole collectively and individually sometimes weren't very good in the first couple weeks. At the end of the summer, they were asking for the adversity. Throughout the workout, they were chanting for it. They wanted it. They're learning to take on and embrace those challenges, and that was exciting to see. You know, we got guys that were running 19, 20 miles an hour in the wintertime, in the spring on their GPS units, okay, that are now running 22 miles an hour. Guys that are flying up these decks and going the same speed right down and getting ready to do it again in terms of them being in shape, their explosiveness, and then to be able to do what they did in the weight room in terms of moving weight and being explosive while doing it. It's very exciting. The strength and conditioning staff did an unbelievable job, and now it's time to go put those gains to work tomorrow.
What was the last day of decks, and how many did they get up to at the end?
So the last day of decks was last Friday. We ran decks on Friday, and the way we did it, it was a little bit different this year. There were times. There was a certain time that we had to make it up those decks and touch that wall. And we're emphasizing not only the conditioning part and the mental aspect of going up those things, and when we're talking about, if any of you have gone and stepped bleacher to bleacher up there, it's a little bit different than walking the steps. We are training explosive athletes. We are training to gain the explosiveness, the rate of force in which we apply when we're running. And so there were certain times that, depending on the position groups, they had to make it up in, and the final count was we got to 14. And then we proceeded to go in the weight room and max out after, and guys hit personal bests in the weight room after hitting those 14.
You're at a special year last year. Where do you think he can improve, and how do you see him fitting into your offense?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, again, his versatility and what this offense calls for, you know, from a slot wide receiver, and the versatility that goes with that, it's a perfect fit. His offseason pars with some of the things that we just talked about and the gains he's made. But not only that, I mean, the guy's a tremendous leader. Selfless as they come. I mean, he is about the team in every single way that you would want a guy who's you know, in his position. Not only is productive on the field, but is productive as helping his teammates. So both on and off the field, we're excited for what he's going to do this year.
What's your plan to get better as a head coach in fall camp?
A whole lot, starting from how we get up in the morning and how we communicate. How we communicate and how we ourselves, myself, how I respond to the challenges every day that come up. And how I create solutions with the people around and relying on the people around to put the best opportunity forward for the team to grow. And it will be an endless pursuit of that every single day. The players come here and compete every single day in the meeting rooms and on the football field. Our jobs as coaches is to compete every single day to create an environment where people can grow and thrive. And for me, that's going to be a growth process that we'll take learning from spring ball and apply what we learned in spring specific to the team, because what it calls for is specifically the team's needs that we have currently. And that's changing. Next year will be different. When we go into spring ball next year, it will be different because the team will be different.
On the D-line, you've gone from razor thin last fall to the appearance of dependable depth now. How has that process come together?
Yeah, you know, we got to continue to build on that too. You know, we when it comes to the fronts, as we spoke about, you can never have enough. And you know, where that starts is developing these young men's bodies, preparing these young men's bodies, teaching them the proper fundamentals to play with, like we spoke about, and then obviously them being able to execute those fundamentals and techniques with confidence, to be able to play with a certain mentality. And we've made strides there, but we have to make a huge jump, you know, in the next couple weeks here.
You
mentioned at media days about how the new process this year where you have to go more practices before you can get into full pads and all that's different.
Yes.
Other than that, like, will we see any differences from Andy Avalos, fall camp compared to what we've seen here in the past? Or?
Some of the progressions may be different. The way fall camp's laid out, and yes, it is a little bit different with how many helmet practices we must be in, how many full padded practices we can be in, and then how many shells are up, or shoulder pads and helmets. So like anything else, I mean, we're adapted and adjusted in this game in a whole lot of ways with name, image, and likeness and some other things that are going on. And so ultimately what it does is you really got to fine tune the certain situations that you are putting into fall camp on certain days. When can we get to our first scrimmage? What practice number is that? Okay, how are we spacing those things out and making sure we're getting the work we need to improve from the first scrimmage into the second scrimmage, keeping in mind we only get so many or so many padded practices. So those things are playing a new role, not only for Boise State, but obviously for everybody.
Andy, last year protocols were such a talking point. How close are you guys to kind of just operating as you once knew it, or at least does it have the appearance of it in there, I guess?
We're not close. And this is a real topic of conversation. As much as we all want to move on to whatever the new normal is, closest to what it was prior to the pandemic, we're not there yet. One of the biggest opponent we'll have this year is making sure that we handle our COVID protocols. It's still a very real situation. We have to be very mindful of the decisions we make if we want to put our best foot forward and keep ourselves in a position where we can continue to grow every single day and compete. The protocols and the pandemic will play a role this year in college football and how people handle that. But everybody's handling it. Everybody's got to handle the same things. So we will see that there are certain protocols, and again, I apologize for some of those up front, but those are the things that we have to do. Like we spoke about, responding and putting the best things forward so that our football program could continue to be safe, grow, and thrive every day. We will continue on with numerous protocols.
There's been a big vaccination push by the conference. Since media days, have you guys had a team event, or maybe has there been a vaccination drive on campus that the players have been able to attend?
There has been multiple on campuses. We feel like our numbers have improved since media days. Our numbers are continuing to improve that way. So, in due time, guys have had the opportunities to make a decision. But either way, whatever we decide to do, there are protocols that we will operate by. There are protocols that we have to live by. And again, if we decide to get vaccinated or we don't get vaccinated, whatever decisions we make, our self-discipline and our commitment to what we're trying to do here, we're going to have to take that into consideration to hold these protocols every single day. And it's not just when we're here in and around our facilities, it's also when we're outside the facilities.
The NFL's making, there were different colored wristbands at practice if they're vaccinated or not. I mean, I know you have a lot on your plate, but do you have someone that's going to have to have the checklist of who's not vaccinated, who has to wear the masks? I mean, how are you going to handle all the different protocols for different people based on if they are vaccinated or not?
Well, there are some certain protocols that obviously are getting put in place by the local health officials. There's some of those. There's some in place by the conference. There's some in place by the university. We put them all together, and that's where it becomes a great deal of work that, it's not strategizing defense anymore. It's strategizing this stuff to put us in the best position to keep everybody safe so that we can all continue to grow and thrive. And we do have a system of checks and balances in terms of who's responsible for understanding and knowing who is vaccinated and who isn't. And it's not for a matter of separating or anything like that, but from a standpoint of making sure that we are able to stay within protocol and allow ourselves to grow forward. That is an everyday process. That's an every morning process. That's every night and all the hours in between.
Have you had a conversation with the players about the competitive advantage that being vaccinated can be?
On both sides, we've allowed people to come in and speak to the team. We've allowed experts, infectious disease, couple different people on requests of the players of just getting more information. So we're very thankful that gentlemen have taken their time to come speak to the team. We've laid out the parameters of what it looks like when you're vaccinated and when you're not vaccinated, and to be honest with you too, how some of that stuff may change by the time we play our first game. The one thing that we do know that we control is the settings we're putting ourselves in, who we're putting ourselves around, and how we handle those settings in terms of wearing a mask.
How do you feel about the possibility of forfeiting games if you can't field the team?
You know what? That's a huge concern because we control that. And we focus on the things we can control. There's a lot of things we can't control. And that's where we've got to commit ourselves to aligning with the greater good. And some of those things, you know, if it's wearing a mask, it may not be enjoyable, but there's bigger things that we're going to have to overcome than those things. So there are going to be things put in place to help make sure that we're not in that situation. But that is a real situation. That is a real situation that is not going to be gone from last year. We are not out of this pandemic in terms of how it relates to college football.
You lose an All-American, you know, special teams guy in Avery Williams. You look at the return game. How do you look at, you know, who's in the mix there, and how do you try to find, how important is it to find the next kind of game changer on special teams?
Well, Avery's a special guy now. The person is a player from the first time he touched, you know, he caught his first punt right there and housed it back over here. Now there's guys on this team, on this roster that are very competitive, and they'll tell you they're very special too. And they're looking forward to competing to see who's going to get to try to fill those shoes. Guys like Khalil Shakir, you know, Steph Cobbs, CT, and so there's a whole host of guys that it'll be fun to watch those guys compete throughout fall camp too, because they're all very confident that they can do it.
Is the UCF game going to be kind of a thread throughout fall camp beginning tomorrow, or are you going to just concentrate on first things first and really get after that a few weeks in?
No, it's all about us. It's all about us right now. The first couple weeks, 2.5 weeks, will be all about us and how we grow and how we come together, how we accomplish, you know, our camp objectives that we've got laid out, and that's what we will focus on. As we have in the past, we will take a couple practices and really take a couple sessions, a couple team periods within a practice, and some of the meeting time that goes along with that practice to focus on particular opponents that have a little bit different scheme. But aside from that, it is all Boise State.
How many hours are you and your coaching staff going to spend over, you know, the next few weeks in here? And how do you push balance and all that stuff, you know?
Yeah, that's a scary question when you start counting it up, you know, and all that stuff. But the reality is, we get an unbelievable opportunity to have an impact on people's lives, because it's going to be a lot of time, but we will be efficient. That is one of our main goals as a staff, you know, and as a leadership group, is not only to be efficient with our time so that we can have balance within our lives, because that's everything, but also so that we can be efficient with our players. We want our players to see and understand that even things that are very demanding, you know, if you plan your work and you work your plan and you can be very efficient with what you're doing and you can commit yourself to what you're talking about and what you've agreed upon, then you can do very difficult things and still have balance. We're very excited to get this camp started. The coaching staff is eager to get on the field tomorrow morning. And the good part about it for us is, you know, we're lucky to be doing it right here in this city, in this community, and to be able to do it with this team that has been assembled. And so, that being said, we got a ton of hard work ahead of us, but we're looking forward to doing it.